I'll encourage you all to talk to the speakers as they wander around. We're opening the bar, I think, pretty soon, so that will help you get the words out. But you know, they're here. A lot of them have traveled from out of town. So you know, just introduce yourself, say hello. They're all great to talk to. Kim Gardner, who's our next speaker, is awesome to speak to. She knows a lot about startups. She exudes energy, so I'm just going to bring her on stage right away. She's the founder of Pigeon.io, a new service that allows you to set up email very quickly. All right, round of applause, please, Kim Gardner.
Awesome. All right, thanks guys. So I understand I'm the only thing between you guys and also myself and the bar. So we're gonna get through this right quick and talk more over drinks. First off, I just want to say thanks so much to Paul and Rebecca and Jessica for just being so awesome. You know, it's just been a pleasure working with them and getting all this figured out. And it's my first time in Cleveland, so I'm looking forward to hitting some cool stuff tomorrow and hopefully not being too hungover from tonight so that I can still make it to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and stuff. So I want to talk to you guys about two things that are really near and dear to my heart. One is, as Paul mentioned, Pigeon.io is a startup I've been working on for about the last 8 months or so, kind of really getting into it recently. I even quit my job at the New York Times in October to focus on it full time, and then I want to talk about the second thing that's really near and dear to my heart, which is the thing that gave me the confidence to quit my job. And we've heard it kind of alluded to through a couple of the other speakers. Emily did a great job kind of going into, you know, getting these assumptions out there and not kind of just going on what we think is maybe a solution and maybe what we think is a market, but really drilling down and figuring out, you know, how do we really question our way from an idea to a business? So I'm Kim. I've been working in tech for a little over 10 years now, but I've always kind of been in the web dev stuff since high school. I was building websites before CSS existed. I hosted stuff on AngelFire, if anyone knows that. There's a site still up there. I found it recently. It's been up for 19 years, and it's just, I'm so glad that was before like Google was indexing anything. More recently, I got into the whole Agile thing when I first moved to New York in 2012. I worked for a couple startups and was an Agile project manager. And then I moved on and I was doing Agile coaching at places like Shutterstock and, like I mentioned more recently, the New York Times. But I always just had this driving force that I wanted to do my own thing. And so I'm really excited to share kind of the journey that I've gone through, figuring out, going from what was kind of a problem for myself and a little speckling of an idea to something that is slowly and surely becoming a viable business. So as I said, Pigeon.io is, it's all about email, right? So the whole, like, I'm a woman on a mission to give people back control of their email. And what I'll share with you through this presentation is kind of, you know, what I've gone through in terms of figuring out what that actually means. So I want to just kind of quickly, Emily did a great job kind of highlighting this earlier, but what is customer development? It's really like all about getting to this elusive stage of product market fit, which means, as Steve Blank says really nicely, you know that there's customers there and they're forking over their hard-earned dollars to you. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about these currencies and things. There's other kind of signals that you can get from people, but really it's all about, am I creating something of value where people will pay me for it? Paul Graham says, you know, make things people want, kind of in the same vein. Dave McClure from 500 Startups. I love this because it's, you know, he always highlights like make a painkiller and not a vitamin because, you know, recessions hit, people cut budgets. You know, they're not going to cut their painkillers. It's going to be the enhancements, the kind of nice to haves and things like that. So that's been a really exciting part of this process too, is realizing that I'm actually like solving a really big pain point for people. And then this is actually just a quote from my friend Alex, who he works at Neo Innovation out of San Francisco, and they do a lot of this lean product development. And he kind of drilled this down really nicely. I've never heard it really quite this simply put before, which is, you know, creating startups, all we're doing is we're trying to find real problems for real people. And I think this kind of gets in nicely with, you know, as entrepreneurs, you know, we look at problems as opportunities. I don't know about you guys, but like I hear somebody complain about something and I'm like, yes, I'm building a new taxi app. You know, like I hear someone complain about garbage disposal and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna build a garbage disposal app. And we're jumping to conclusions, we're jumping straight to the solution. And I've spent more than enough weekends hacking away at stuff, and then come Monday and I go to work and I'm like, you guys would never believe what I built this weekend. And I show them and they're like, oh yeah, that was like the startup that just failed last week. So, like, I'm so glad I didn't go to the bar this weekend then. That was awesome. And it's hard to get out of that mentality. So what I want to really stress here are the 2 steps of customer development, which is, first of all, validating that this problem even exists. Who has this problem? You know, who are these people? What are they doing? And then figuring out, once you've nailed down that there's a problem that exists, that the solution that you've created is actually going to help them out. So like I said, this is a story about email. I've always been a big supporter of like security and privacy, net neutrality, all these things. I'm like a huge EFF person. And so when the whole Snowden NSA stuff hit, the first thing I started thinking about was, I can't believe I've been hosting my crap on Gmail for this long. Like, they have everything about me. I was going through and thinking, you know, geez, like health records, finances, you know, random weird notes that I've emailed myself over time. You can find a lot about a person from their email. So I started thinking, like, I really want to find a better way to do this. I don't want to give Gmail my stuff anymore. So how do I host my own email? How do I have a private version of my email? So the first thing I did is I went to a few friends of mine who are also very security focused. They're into things like Bitcoin and stuff. So I asked them, you know, where do you host your email? And everyone unanimously was Gmail, except for one guy who I also met another person earlier who hosts his own email. Does anyone host their own email? Yeah. What? A little bit? No. A little bit? Yeah. So there was, yeah, I met a gentleman earlier who hosts his own email, and I found one friend of mine that did. It's on a mail server in his parents' basement. It's been running for 7 years, and he's like, it's running on a prayer. I don't look at it wrong because it could just go to shit. Like, I have no idea how it's still working. So my question really was, why don't more people host their own email? Like, the tools are out there, the technology's there. Email's been around since 1965. It's crazy. And you know what? Like, once I started digging into the tools, it was stuff that was created in 1965, basically. So what I wanted to do next is figure out, so when I was talking to people about why they weren't hosting their own email, the real concern was, it's hard, it's clunky, it's time consuming. So I said to myself, all right, I'm gonna figure out exactly how hard this thing is. And I set aside the whole weekend. And by the end of it, by Sunday around midnight, I had it kind of sending sometimes. And it's really big, clunky kind of like stack of old Linux, Unix tools that kind of fit together. And you look through these config files, and you're not really sure how anything works, and the documentation kind of sucks. So yeah, I was actually going to put a slide up here of some of the postfix documentation, which is kind of one of the key like kind of tools. But the postfix site was down for like 5 days, so I just didn't do that. So once I had gone through this horrible 3 days of my life setting up my own mail server, I started talking to some of my sysadmin friends, and this was my first kind of round of customer development interviews. I talked to 12 people. All of these people had hosted their own email at some point in the past. And the kind of generic conclusion was, it's a solid day of work. These are sysadmins with 10 plus years experience. And the thing that was shocking to me was, it would take around an hour of maintenance a week. Like, that's crazy amounts of time. And that's anything from like patching servers, security breaches, things like that come out, just random stuff doesn't work because it's like tools from the 70s. So what I concluded from this was, this is the main thing that every single one of those people said, which is, yes, I've hosted my own email in the past, I would never, ever do it again. So once I kind of figured out at this point, all right, like I'm onto something here, like there's kind of a little problem happening, it's a problem for me, it's a problem for these 12 people, a couple other people I had spoken to, you know, how big is this problem? Is there a market? Is there a sizable market for something like this? So I started looking around the internet to start, and I have tons of these comments, like threads and forums, like scrolling the last 10 years or so. This was one from Slashdot that said, this whole idea of setting up your own mail server is a pure academic exercise. Other things like this, where these are the tools I'm talking about, they belong in the here be dragons territories of the Unix world, using words like frustrating, baffling. And then I saw that there were other people that were kind of onto the same thing as me, like, we need an alternative for Gmail, there's really nothing out there, and is this something we should maybe look into more? So then what I wanted to understand are there other analog services out there that would prove maybe some sort of market for this private email? And it's really clear to see things like Telegram, Messenger, Whisper, getting 50 million monthly active users, Whisper with 10 million, growing really rapidly. And then of course like DuckDuckGo, which is like kind of, darling up the whole privacy thing, 3 million searches a day. So now that I've kind of identified at this point that there's a market, I know some of these people, but who specifically are these people that have this problem that I have too? And I created this user persona. Has anyone created personas before? Yeah? So what you kind of do, you give a life to your user. And I based this on a meshing of kind of different people I had spoken to. And I named it Benson. It's a cute name. My typical user is male, like 20s, 30s. They're making around 130K a year. They're working in a startup. They have disposable income. But, these people are not going to spend a Saturday plus working on setting up their own mail server. If they're going to work on something, it's going to be their open source project. It's going to be their side project, their side startup. They're going to be building tools for other things that they're working on. So they just don't have time for this kind of stuff. And if they're going to spend a weekend working on something, it's going to be something cool, like Docker, where they can come to work on Monday and be like, I own this shit with Docker, instead of being like, hey, have you guys seen this postfix crap? And nobody cares. So what I got to at this point is where I was able to validate this problem, right? So people want to host their own email, but it's super painful, so they're not going to do it. So now I started getting into a place where I was kind of building out what I would imagine the solution to be. So I threw up this super simple landing page in a couple hours, and they were highlighting some resources before. I hear people come to me all the time, and they're like, I can't do anything, I can't code. Like, there's so many different things that you can do to get this stuff out there. You don't have to code at all. And really, I pushed myself back of not allowing myself to really get into the code for a while. So this is a really simple landing page. Kind of came up with this slightly Zoolander-esque, email hosting made really, really ridiculously easy. UVP, and I wanted to start driving people to the site, see if we could get people to sign up. So with the first ad campaign that I ran, I spent $200, and I got 22 signups. The cost of acquisition was around $9, and this was just I was trying a couple different slogans out and some pictures, and I was playing around with Photoshop, which I suck at. These ads looked horrible, by the way, but I was able to really see some clear delineation, okay, people are kind of interested in this, and they're willing to give me their email address for it. So that led me to the second ad campaign, where I really wanted to understand what UVP really resonates with people. So I did 4 different variations. One was really targeting it on it's super easy. One was all about controlling your data. One was just hosting your own email, and one was this quick and dirty setup. And the 2 that really won overall were control your data and easy. So now I kind of understand, this is the thing that I gotta drill into. So my solution has to be super easy and a way for them to control their own data. Prior to this, I was actually thinking, my original idea was, I'm gonna set up servers in Switzerland, and they're gonna be like the Swiss banks of email servers. This was my whole, I talked to colo spaces in Switzerland, and I was like, this is amazing, this is gonna be my Switzerland, data center empire, it's gonna be so cool. People coming in with lockboxes and James Bond stuff. So what I was able to delineate from this is, that's not that important to me. The whole kind of privacy is definitely kind of the controller behind this, but they want to have They want to have control of their email. They want to decide where it goes. So this is where I was able to come up with kind of what eventually became Pigeon in the end. And what I wanted to figure out is, does the solution solve the actual problem? So I came up with a really quick and dirty, is that video going to play? Darn. Well, it's a really quick and dirty demo. I set up a really simple Rails app. It was just forms linking to each other. It didn't do anything. And what people would do is, I was driving people to this page, and then once they clicked on, to the landing page, they would see the demo, and then they would be able to purchase. And it was just, I just said $5. Give me $5 for your email. And I drove people to this. So this is it's a 4-step process. They click on create your own mail server. They set up where they want to host it, which the options are AWS or Rackspace at the moment, and fill in a couple pieces of information, spits you back some DNS stuff to update, and tells you how to direct your IMAP. So that's it. So what I wanted to do is, given this solution, can I get people to commit to paying for it? So this is where I had a couple more Twitter campaigns, just kind of doing the $5, $5 an email address, same price that Google's charging almost. I spent $65 this time. I got 20 payments, and after seeing the demo, my cost of acquisition went way down. So I was like, okay, something's good here. So my next question, of course, is I kind of have this idea that people will pay for it now. Can I get them to pay more for it? Because this $5 number was just something I pulled out. So I did a couple more tests. One was doing the $10 a month pricing. And this, I got 5 payments, $8 cost of acquisition. And the next one was $20 a month, $750, 3 payments. So what I decided on is there's not too much of a difference between these guys, so of course I'm going to charge $20. So we'll start with 20, and then I can always give discounts and stuff in the future. So what I've concluded at this point in this entire kind of journey is people want Pigeon, they want the thing that I've built, and they're going to pay around $20 a month for it, which is awesome. So what I'm doing now at this stage, we actually just launched our beta last week, which is why I'm a little bit sleep deprived. I was troubleshooting the database last night, of course. So I want to know, people are interested in it, they want to pay for it. Can I get them to use it and keep using it? Can I get them to be loyal customers of mine? So I'm currently testing it with 15 customers. This is about half kind of friends and family, ex-colleagues, people that I know and trust. And then about the other half are people that have signed up for some of these campaigns I've run, and then kind of done the extra reach out. They've retweeted stuff that I've posted, they've followed me, they've emailed me, things like that. So these are kind of a really high value group. And what we're doing is getting feedback and fixing some little bugs, kind of looking at some of the aesthetics because we didn't need a lot of attention to that before. And then our next step is we've identified from all those other campaigns as well, and some other just kind of meeting people at meetups and stuff. Another group of 78 customers that are kind of our next tier of value, and we're going to be inviting them to join the beta probably next couple weeks. And then we have about 250 more people on our other lists and things that we're going to start kind of pumping into the system. So just kind of in terms of next steps, because customer development, it doesn't end once you, and John kind of alluded to this too, with pivoting and kind of iterating on product ideas. It doesn't end with validating an MVP. It doesn't end with finding an initial product market fit. These are some other questions that we want to start testing. What are other niches besides just kind of techie people that care about this email privacy thing? Could it be a B2B product? Some people have approached me and said, my health clinic has to be HIPAA compliant. We're paying exchange, we're paying for exchange, paying $100,000 a year for this stuff. Could you do it cheaper? And I'm like, yeah, you do that for 90 grand, totally. And then, what other value adds kind of exist in this ecosystem? One of the things that we're trying to figure out right now is are people going to use this to sign up new email addresses that they've created? Or are we going to have to do a crazy ass like Gmail migration thing, that's going to be a nightmare. You know, so like trying to figure out like how do we prioritize what we do next, what we work on next. And then, you know, whether vertical markets might be appropriate. Like things around email, obviously you have backups, you have storage, you know, you have different kind of communication things. So like looking into that is kind of our next move. So yeah, check it out. 7-day free trial, or just ping me and I'll give you access if you want. Check it out. Would love your feedback. And yeah, thanks for having me. Any questions or?